Hey folks, Craig Danger, vinyl record player. Oh, back again. Today we're gonna get a little bit more, lower energy here as we look into the fall and the winter. Decided it was time to do 5 must-have Sunday morning, or really Sunday records. Frankly, I think I got 5 really kind of amazing choices. So hey, grab the slippers, put the feet up, grab a hot cup of coffee, and snuggle up. And we're back. Let's just cut right into this. This is, like I said, this was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. The fact is that, not everything fits with a kind of a chill template of a quality Sunday, but I figure a great way to start is probably After Weeks, Van Morrison. Obviously, if you've ever heard this record, this one is one of those ones where when it first came out, it was absolutely not really even respected, sold very little, but as the years have gone on, people have kind of recognized what a real kind of super classic this is. Certainly, starting off with the title track alone is just, it kind of takes you to a far off land, you could almost say. But you got Madam George, Beside You, Young Lovers Do. It's all just a bunch of classics. What's kind of interesting about this, I was reading into how this album was created, and really was at an odd time for Van Morrison, having just released his first real kind of solo album, which was more in a pop direction than he wanted to go in. And then basically he had a lot of battles with his record company owner. Then the record company owner just straight up has a heart attack. Except the wife of the record company owner blames Van. So she's naturally bitter. He's in New York at the time. And basically she tries to get him deported and all this other crazy stuff. So he goes off and he basically hangs out in Boston, plays around there, meets a couple of cool musicians, and they just basically start creating, kind of. So fast forward, maybe about a year after they're performing, they're basically pulling together a variety of the songs that will become After Weeks. Well, Warner Brothers comes to him and we're like, hey, I think we'd like to sign you. I think we'd like to see what you can do. Well, we know what you can do, obviously, because he'd had Brown Eyed Girl, obviously some hits with them. But so basically, Warner Brothers takes care of all the madness that is going on with the widow of his former record company owner, and then they depart to the studio. And they introduced the song, how they're played, to a couple of key jazz musicians, Jay Berliner and also Richard Davis on bass. Well, basically from there, that's about it. What happens is Van basically is in a corner recording with acoustic and just vocals. These two jazz players just basically start jamming, basically create an album. So the song structures are very loose on this anyway, and they all kind of wend their way into one giant song, kind of. But really, it's oddly, and I didn't know, that this was just basically kind of raw parts provided by Van Morrison, and then some jazz musicians just going weird and wild and really fantastic, actually. Real sort of autumnal, pastoral vibes all over this. Basically, mostly improvised by jazz musicians, which again, I had really no idea. And in fact, even Van Morrison, of course, loved the results of it because basically these guys were super professionals. Obviously, Richard Davis sort of leading all of the tracks on it. And really a classic record. So chill, but in my opinion, still one of his best, if not his best record ever released, that being in '68. So my first must-have Sunday record. You really haven't had a proper Sunday until you've had it with Van Morrison's After Weeks from 1968. And just a reminder of everyone to like and particularly subscribe. If you could subscribe, you'd be doing a brother a favor, a big one. We're kind of stalled over here, which is fine. I mean, these things happen in the show business that is the YouTube. But yeah, if you could help a brother out, help us all out. What's another great Sunday record? Like I say, this was not an easy video for me to do because every record that I thought was Sunday was maybe a little bit too upbeat. You don't want to be waking up on a Sunday going, whoa, 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 hold on. And like I say, putting these 5 records together, it was a little bit tougher than I thought. So please, in the comments, what's a great Sunday record? And number 2, I mean, it could be a lot of old Lee Hazelwood's records that could fit into that Sunday bracket. I mean, we could be talking about Nancy and Lee, which kind of also has that slow sort of cowboy songs, sort of acoustic vibe all over it. But we're going to go with Cowboy of Sweden from 1972. So Cowboy in Sweden, basically, at this point, Lee Hazelwood had a number of production hits and also some hits with Nancy Sinatra in the States. He ends up moving to Sweden. He'd actually been in a couple of TV productions there, and basically they put together what would be a sort of a TV production slash movie slash musical called Cowboy in Sweden. And this is about like a 2018, 2019 Light in the Attic re-release. So this is not the original copy, but basically it comes with like a lot of cool stuff, including all these awesome photos. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun, loping sort of cowboy record. He's got a couple of backing singers on here that kind of add to the proceedings. But basically it's Lee Hazelwood. Really kind of a light touch, some strings in places, really kind of loping, a lot of cowboy-y music, obviously it being the cowboy in Sweden. But you know, this is a really good version, and I would say particularly this is a great version in terms of if you do see this one in the stores, you pick it up. This has got a poster for the movie. I think this did come with a DVD as well, and also I think it also has the old blue vinyl here, which is a beauty. But yeah, anything Lee Hazelwood has sort of got that dusty Western vibe to it, despite being effectively pop. And yeah, certainly Cowboy in Sweden by Lee Hazelwood. Another of what I would call a must-have Sunday record. Cowboy in Sweden from 72. And from 70, how about Nick Drake's Brighter Later? This one, of course, he really, during his career, which was very short, he really only had 3 albums. This one, his debut, which was, of course, 5 Leaves Left, and then, of course, Pink Moon. Before he closed the career rather unceremoniously, unfortunately committed suicide. Very depressed fella. But you know, you wouldn't really necessarily be able to tell it by Brighter Later, which is just kind of really fantastic. You got the title track, you got Lazy Jane. Really, this whole album has just got that lilting sort of pastoral, there's pastoral vibes all over this. This is actually his most heavily produced album as well. So what you have all over this album are basically backing tracks provided by Fairport Convention, who are basically like living in a pub at that point. Obviously, success had not really come to their door, so a lot of Richard Thompson on the backing on this one. And also, as well, a little bit of a surprise, I did not know about this, but John Cale from the Velvet Underground was actually producing a record by Nico at the time that this was being recorded, and he basically was like, oh, I like this guy's songs, let me play some cello, let me play some keys, and basically you got John Cale all over this thing too. But basically this is one of those, it's just really kind of a fantastic record. Real chill, real, like I say, very pastoral, kind of like dandelions blowing in the breeze sort of business. I don't know if that's a thing, but Brighter Later. This is one of those ones you listen to on Sunday morning. It's not going to rock you up, but it gets you going. And yeah, like I say, really fantastic album. He only has 3, and basically all 3 are really fantastic albums. This one, I think, is kind of, like I say, not only his most produced, but also, I would say, his least melancholy. Even though, again, this is a very melancholy album, as pretty much everything he did was. Going down to Canada here for this one. How about, well, I mean, if you actually like music or records, You probably know about Joni Mitchell's Blue, so I won't talk forever about it. But yeah, this is a very interesting. Obviously, this is always seen as one of her best albums. Got the lyrics in the middle. Very simple cover. I think this is I think this is her best album, and it's kind of one of the best albums of all time. But as far as a Sunday sort of a chill record, nothing really beats it. This, of course, is recorded right at the time that Joni's relationship with Graham Nash ended. They were going out for about 2 years during the forming of Crosby, Stills and Nash. And of course, at the same time she's recording this, she begins a new affair with James Taylor, and basically had recorded this while they were still together. So, a lot of love songs, just some really great vibes. She wrote a lot of this while she was really vacationing on Crete. Kind of got a little bit tired of the road. Really hadn't truly monstrously broken out. Certainly she had Woodstock and other songs, but there really were no breakout hits for her as a singer-songwriter up till that point. This album, of course, would change it all. Wow. Everything corner to corner, end to end on this is just absolutely amazing and kind of perfect for that sort of Sunday vibe, chilling with your coffee. You're not going to get too disturbed by this, but there's so many moments on this. And of course you get that distinctive Joni Mitchell sort of guitar pattern. She of course had problems with her fingers. So as a result, she did a lot of sort of odd chord structures in order to compensate for her lack of hand strength. And fantastic playing and singing all over this. Joni Mitchell Blue. If you don't have it now, when are you going to get it? When are you going to get it? And then finally, let's just stay in Canada with really one of my favorite artists of all time from '66, recorded in December of '64. This, of course, would be Lightfoot, Gordon Lightfoot, his first LP. The caveat on this one, I'm going to go ahead and say, is that you want to start with side 2 on this one. Side 2 really kind of starts really well with Steel Rail Blues. Then you got 16 Miles. It sort of goes from there on more of a calmer tip. By the time you hit that side 1, flip that record, hit the side 1, you're starting out with Rich Man's Spiritual, which is a little bit faster paced, but really side 1 is, in my opinion, one of the best sides of a record ever. Side 2 just sort of glides you in, a little bit more upbeat on side 1. Of course, you got Early Morning Rain as well, a super classic. His version of Phil Oakes Changes, which is just, nothing better. But Lightfoot on the United Artists label, actually, this is kind of a classic one. And this really kind of makes your Sunday. And like I say, very good early vibes. At this point, basically, Gordon was not much of a hit almost anywhere, known more as a songwriter, but certainly he was actually one of the first Canadian artists to get big in Canada, having not basically moved to the United States, which was kind of what it took back then. But with Lightfoot from '66, really a classic Sunday record. It's worthy of being in your collection, without a doubt. But that'll be it for this video. So don't forget to subscribe if you're still here. And I'm just going to go ahead and say enjoy your Sunday wherever you are. And hey, catch you on the next one.